bands were able to make a record and have an outlet.
And we're grateful for that.
And
without
we're grateful
excess.
for that, yeah. There's... Yeah, and a lot of people we deal with, and I was thinking about this, a lot of the artists we've always dealt with have been interesting characters. There's been very few that have been careerist.
Yes.
Whereas, and I find though you can tell when a successful artist has been very calculated and careerist and known exactly what they're doing and plays the game completely, and they're just quite boring characters, really.
Yeah.
And I think we've always steered clear of that sort
And
of
it also makes
personality.
quite terse relationships as well.
We've got some terse and interesting relationships. We've had some very interesting characters on
You can
that
share
we've
if
worked
you want.
with over the years, and they've all been great.
They've all been wonderful people, of course, naturally. So just moving that slightly along then, I mean, by sort of 1982, you've built up quite a repertoire, quite a number of artists. You're getting into all the kind of the independent charts. You know, the Sounds at that time had, you know, which, looking back as a musician, had a futurist chart, it had an oi oi chart, and various different subsectors. And you kind of had a foot in each, you know, some of your acts were appealing to all those different genres.
Yeah. Yeah, we never just stuck to a particular, you know, we weren't just punk or just indie, which I hated as a musical term because it was independent, not, and it's not a musical style, though it can be an attitude. So yeah, I don't think we did oi oi, but we did a lot of different genres, certainly, from Wilco Johnson, UK Decay, etc.
Yes, yeah. I mean, you know, sort of some of those, I mean, UK Decay are tremendously important, and it's often forgotten that, you know, they were kind of the bridge between the punk, the post-punk, and then the goth thing that came afterwards.
Yeah.
You know, and stuff like that, you know, they were tremendously important releases. But I was just thinking in terms of those bands that you signed, was it merely the case that you thought they had something, that you weren't trying to build any kind of identity, that, you know, this is what a Fresh Records artist is going to sound like?
I don't think we had a sound for the label, no. I think it was, though we had an attitude. And, yeah, I mean...
What would you say the attitude was, if you tried to pin down the attitude?
I'm not sure I could.
I mean, it comes across as slightly irreverent and not too...
Slightly irreverent, chaotic, anarchistic. Yeah, that'll do for 3. There's probably a few other words.
Okay, well, we're up to sort of 82. And at that point, Alex Howe... Well, what we should mention probably is that you were very keen to sign Johnny Thunders towards the end of Fresh, as I understand it.
Yeah.
He had...
And Southern Death Cult were in the office as well, and we were sort of introduced to them via... UK Decay and people, but that was just before that. You know, there was no money there, and
so you had to pass then.
Well, we had to pass, yes.
Oh dear. But in terms of Johnny Thunders, his manager was trying to get a deal in France with Marks and Matty.
Yeah, Lee Blackchilders. We did a single with Levi Dexter, who'd been of Levi and the Rockettes, produced by Richard Gotterer.
That's the Blondie producer, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's Blondie's producer.
Yeah. And I'd sort of vaguely known Lee because Cuddly Toys would sort of gate crash Jane County's parties and a few years earlier. And yeah, Johnny had been unheard of, or not heard of for a couple of years by then.
Yeah.
He'd gone back to Detroit and not done any records since So Alone, and things were moving into the new romantic thing was, you know, the latest thing, and it's like punk that was history. New York Dolls was even further back history, so it really was just sort of, and I've got some tapes, don't know if anyone's interested. He used to be quite big in France, and so he was talking to Mark, who who'd known the Dolls and Johnny since early days, and Lee and Heartbreakers. But Bizarre had gone bust, and Mark wasn't doing anything at the time. So we did the deal with Lee. I think it was in December '81, but I think Mark had the tapes because he was listening to them or something.
Yeah.
So we didn't get to release anything. But Alex had sort of succumbed to all the pressure and excitement and fun that was happening with the label, and there had been a bit of a recession on around '81, '82, and a few people had gone bust, customers, and suddenly sales weren't what they were.
Yeah.
And Alex took some time out, and then sort of came back and realised he didn't want to continue with it anymore. It was too stressful for him, and there wasn't any money there. It was going bust, and he didn't see a way out, and that was a difficult time, obviously. So during this fresh time, John Knight, who had been my old discotheque partner, had come to live in my kitchen after his marriage had broken up, and therefore come to meet Alex. And Alex had hired him to help run his distribution for a while, till they fell out. So when Alex said, "I'm going to give it all up and fold the thing, it's not working," myself and Graham Comby, who was working there, and Steve Brown, who was working there, we got together and said, "Listen, we've got to do something with what we've got and what we know." And we got together with John again and formed Jungle, and started by
with Johnny
buying the label off Alex. And then the distribution thing was quite a big part of our early days as well.
Yeah.
Because there was another whole long story, but Fresh had just started an account with a chain that had just turned into Our Price, and I think Rough Trade had started distribution by then, but they didn't want to deal with that sort of company, so they were happy for Fresh too. And then when we started up, Rough Trade still said...
So you're picking up the slack on the independent records that Our Price would take, but Rough Trade didn't want that relationship.
They didn't like Our Price as a they were
too
corporate image. So when we started Jungle, they were happy for us to supply this chain that they didn't really have an ideological meeting of minds with, or whatever it was.
Which must have been funny for you with your background in a way.
Well, they were very sort of social worker-ish, sort of bureaucratic type. So yes, we were the rock and roll revolutionaries, and they were the sort of bureaucrats and boring ones, we thought. Probably simplifying things a bit.
Yeah.
We had more fun than they did.
Yeah.
And anyway, then Our Price went very quickly from 50 shops to 200. They were opening a shop a week.
Right.
And then suddenly and then Rough Trade had made arrangements with a regional distributor in each area as the cartel.
Yeah.
So we were unofficial members of the cartel, and we couldn't be official members of the cartel because we were in London and that was Rough Trade's patch.
Right.
And they wanted to only
So
supply
it's like
Our
almost a
Price.
second layer thing, just dealing with...
Well, we were effectively a cartel member, but they would never put us on the headed note paper.
Right.